9 News Mornings at 8 a.m. starts right now.
An investigation is underway in Philadelphia this morning after a medical transport jet crashed into a neighborhood shortly after taking off. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lauren Scafidi. We know a girl, her mother, and 4 crew members were on board. All of them were from Mexico. The child was on the way home after she was treated for a life-threatening condition in Philadelphia. Take a look at this. Dash cam footage shows the plane dropping from the sky in the top right of your screen, then crashing into the ground. Look at that fiery explosion. Rescue jet ambulance could not confirm any survivors. It's still not clear if anyone on the ground was hurt or killed. The FAA says the plane was headed to Springfield-Branson National Airport in Missouri, then to Tijuana. The crash happened less than 3 miles from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. That airport mostly serves business jets and charter flights. President Trump posted on Truth Social saying, quote, "More innocent souls lost. Our people are totally enraged," and that more information will come soon. The FAA says the National Transportation Safety Board will lead that investigation. Now, this comes as the NTSB is in the middle of another investigation into the deadly mid-air collision involving American Airlines regional jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter. Barges are expected to arrive at any moment this morning to help clean up that wreckage. We know divers have recovered black boxes for both aircraft. Those have the ability to record data and sound within the cockpit, so it should provide some information on the situation leading up to that collision, like how high the chopper was at the time of the crash and whether it deviated from its assigned flight path. The NTSB says it is confident the black box data from the jet will be fully downloaded soon, but they will not release a manifest.
We have not in our history, not in our past. We will not be in this accident. In fact, there's specific congressional language that whenever it is in our possession, it is not available through the Freedom of Information Act. It will not be included in our report. We will not be putting any names of any of the victims.
A low-altitude airspace where the collision happened is now closed down to helicopter traffic. The FAA also shut down a separate helicopter route near the Key Bridge. Taking a live look outside now over downtown Denver. It is the first day of February, but it's gonna feel kind of like a false spring this weekend. We are flirting with 60 degrees today. So let's check in with Weather Impact meteorologist Chris Spears. Chris, I got a lot of chores to get done inside, but I think those are gonna have to wait for a couple of days because I can't not get outside today.
Absolutely good advice. We are going to be rewarded after that very cold January. Mother Nature starting February off above normal, and we're going to keep it for a couple of days. So we'll melt a little bit of snow out there. Looking at the sky as you wake up and look outside, it's pretty cloudy. We're going to keep a lot of this cloud cover with us off and on through the day today as moisture streams across the region. Airport has a wind out of the northeast at 10, temperature now up to 42 degrees, a lot of 30s and 40s on the map this morning from the eastern plains to the western slope. Kremling 36 degrees at 16 in Lake City. Alamosa, you're up to 9 degrees right now. Here's the radar, and you can see all of that moisture flowing into the western U.S. on a pretty strong jet stream. It's bringing snow to the northern and central mountains, and we'll see this snow become a little more intense and widespread as the day goes on, especially north of I-70. And in addition to the snow, we have some gusty wind along the Continental Divide, and some of that wind will spill into the city from time to time. Highs today, 50s and 60s east, 40s and 50s west, mostly 30s in the high country. Your headlines for the weekend: gusty winds, mountain snow, and warm in Denver. How long does it last? We'll talk about it coming up.
That's a big question. Thank you so much, Chris. President Trump's aggressive new tariffs are now in effect. The tariffs amount to a 25% tax on both Mexico and Canada and a 10% tariff hike on China. Trump says there's nothing the countries can do to stop them from taking effect and that they are not a bargaining tool. Trump also outlined plans for tariffs on steel, aluminum, copper, and pharmaceuticals. President Trump's new tariffs are expected to make some products more expensive for Americans, including cars. We stopped by an auto shop in Denver to talk about the impacts of these tariffs. A specialist at Rickenbach Collision says the prices for car parts will go up along with the tariff hike for Mexico and Canada. He says that's because the cost gets passed on to insurance companies and consumers. An economics professor at MSU Denver agrees.
Doesn't matter which tariff you are talking about, they impose higher price for consumers to pay. So government benefits because it can collect some tariff revenue. Our domestic producers will benefit because they get some competition taken away.
The professor you just heard from says consumers would feel the financial impact fast. He says when the Bush administration put a tariff on steel in 2002, prices for goods that use a lot of steel went up in less than a week. Yesterday, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum told reporters that the country has a, quote, Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C to deal with those imposed tariffs. However, she did not specify what those plans are. Mexico's president said that Mexico has a proposal, and they're always looking to talk with the U.S. government on the issue. An Israeli American is free this morning after Hamas released 3 more hostages just hours ago. Keith Siegel was released to the Red Cross alongside 2 others in Gaza. All 3 were abducted when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023. Siegel is originally from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. He was taken hostage along with his wife. She was released during the ceasefire in 2023. Siegel's family celebrated together once they saw his release on TV. In exchange, Israel will release 183 Palestinian prisoners. This is all part of the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas that paused 15 months of fighting in the Gaza Strip. 8:06 now, the Larimer County Sheriff's Office is asking for more victims to reach out after a man was arrested for impersonating a law enforcement officer this week. Deputies arrested Hugh Clark on Thursday after a driver near Horsetooth Reservoir reported his SUV to police. That man said that the SUV turned around and followed him for miles, even turned on his lights and used a siren. The driver did not stop and reported what happened to police. The sheriff's office tracked down that SUV and Clark the next day. Inside that car, they found clothing with law enforcement markings, handcuffs, and radios. Clark is out of jail on a $3,500 bond. If you think you may have been one of his victims, call Crime Stoppers of Larimer County. Right now, a man accused of killing a 19-year-old in Boulder is in jail on a $19 million bond. A judge set that bond yesterday, less than 24 hours after police arrested him on suspicion of murdering Zariah Hardy last July. Police say it took them 6 months to build a case against him after finding the teen's body strapped to a bike trailer on a backyard in Goss Street. Hardy was homeless at that time. Investigators believe her boyfriend sold her to West, saying, quote, likely accepting drugs as a payment. West is due back in court next week. Try canceling your phone, internet, or TV service, and you probably end up with an automated phone menu or a chat bot. Well, texting for help because you're in a crisis should not feel the same way. That's what a Broomfield mom went through when she reached out to the 988 crisis line for help. Mandy Davis was in crisis with her kid, and she texted 988 to find a place to go. The responses were basic, not helpful, and not local.
Like, I wanted them to provide me with an immediate solution that I could act on instead of just sitting there feeling helpless.
I think that when you dial 988 or you text 988 and you're being told this is a crisis hotline and this is a hotline where you can call and get help and support and resources for any kind of a mental health crisis, you're looking for somebody who has an expertise in mental health.
988 in Colorado is contracted to an Arizona-based company. That company tells us that they have Denver-based call takers and that the automated parts of the text are to help route the person to the correct human counselor. This morning, the deadly Eaton and Palisades fires in Los Angeles County are now 100% contained. Both fires erupted 3.5 weeks ago on January 7th. They burned more than 37,000 acres, which is more than 58 square miles. The fires killed nearly 30 people. More than 16,000 structures were destroyed because of these fires. Schools and workplaces have fire drills, right? You get out of the building, you practice how to respond if a fire really happens. But what if you had a fire drill about 3 times a week? The Denver Fire Department responded 134 times at one Lodo condo building last year. DFD says the Windsor condominiums at 17th and Larimer has a problem where these smoke detectors are located above the kitchen. The condo was built in 1981 and it has an old system.
So in that building, the smoke detector happens to be really close to their kitchen. So and when they're cooking, just the steam from it's a sensitive detector, and so when they start cooking, they're not burning their food. They're just cooking like you and I do at home.
Fire drills would be especially tough in the winter. Condo manager says that they're working to fix that issue, but it takes a while to rewire an old high-rise condo.